So what if both France and the British Empire were given every piece of land that they've ever controlled in history and forced to fight amongst each other in 2021? Now, Great Britain doesn't necessarily get a whole lot more than what we're used to. They, of course, have about 25% of the world as we're used to. But then they also have this, because of course, they did control at one point the 13 colonies. This is the only major difference though. They get a little bit more because eventually they got down into these regions as well. France, however, that's gonna be the big question. We have multiple empires of France all stacked into one giant one, the first colonial empire, the second colonial empire, and then of course that Napoleonic France, which controlled a lot of Europe. And that's why I'm gonna assume that the French kind of have the advantage here. I mean, they look like they can definitely compete, if not completely obliterate the British, depending on the continent that is. Now for both these nations, they needed to have officially controlled these lands for them to be given it. If you remember, France did invade Mexico, but they weren't given any of Mexico because that doesn't count. They might have only controlled this stuff for like a couple of years, maybe even a couple of months, and that's what dictates what they get. So just momentarily sieging something out during like a battle or a war, it wasn't enough to be given anything in this scenario. Now technically speaking, the French Empire is #1 in the world right now, but it's really close. It honestly doesn't even matter. This is pretty much a tie at this point. The British are getting a little bit more economic score, but the French have a lot of the population on their side. Asia is going to be a really interesting continent to look at because even though the Raj seems to be more powerful, I mean the French don't have that much, they might get a little bit of help from Southeast Asia. Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. It might provide an extra front that could give them trouble. But then in Africa, I can't see them keeping this unless, of course, all of Europe comes down for the reinforcements, which actually probably definitely will happen. I would assume the Baguette army is going to be safe in North America, though. They will have to fight two different fronts, but a lot of Canada up here, this is not a lot of land. It looks like a lot of land, but it's really not. This is going to be their main focus just to get back the 13 colonies. Now, that's assuming that they both go to battle right now, which they probably won't. They're both going to want to eat up some neighbors and maybe change some things around a little bit. China is the big question mark. What is China going to do with these new colonial empires back? They might have a little bit of a grudge. Maybe they want to get back at them for all the opium they sold them. Kind of can't wait to see what these Western states do. I mean, what really is there to do? Just pray, I guess. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if, oh, well, Mexico's going through some big problem. I was gonna say Mexico's probably gonna get back old Mexico. Maybe not, actually. I don't think that might happen. At the moment, Russia doesn't border either two empires, but that probably won't last long. The French might also hold a grudge. Maybe they want to make up for Napoleon's problem or Napoleon's mistake of never taking over Russia. They're gonna want to redeem him for that, possibly. Pretty disgusting colonization of both Sicily and Sardinia without Italy controlling these islands. Anyone could do it. I'm assuming a lot of these countries were really inspired by the French and British just, you know, coming back and grabbing up all those islands. They wanted to do that themselves. Even Japan. That's right. I have no idea why the frick Japan is here. How is that even possible? Japan, you're not supposed to be the focus of this video. Can you calm down? By the way, if you haven't seen it already, in my last video, I gave Egypt an empire basically like the Roman Empire. Pretty crazy video seeing the Egyptians fight a new Rome that still kind of rose up just to see like which one was ultimately going to win out there too. You can check that out after this video or in the link down below. The first border movement is happening, and it's actually in Peru. They're getting kind of chilly. It is the southern hemisphere, and I'm assuming it's got to be pretty cold down here. And Brazil is doing the same thing. Didn't expect the only continent to not really be affected by these two empires coming back to be the most interesting. And never mind, the US states have nothing to worry about, at least when it comes to Mexico, because I don't know what the hell Mexico's even doing. And it looks like Turkey is about to fall. We will not also see a cameo from the Ottoman Empire, it looks like, since the French were like right here too. It seems like a pretty natural expansion for them. The British are attacking Russia, and I'm sorry, I really did. Oh, and the French. Oh, that's nice. I really thought Russia would be safe, but I guess not. What the hell, Japan? How did the Japanese take this away from the British Empire? I mean, it's not permanent yet. They're clearly in a battle, though. Wow, so right now it is Japan and Russia against the French and British. What a super weird alliance right here. There are a couple others on their side, Turkey and Indonesia for some reason. So I guess this is like the modern nations trying to kick out the old colonial empires. That's definitely not gonna work though. The French and British have Brazil and Iran, so it literally took like a couple years and World War III is already broken out. Oh, I'm sure Texas is loving this. They're independent once again. They don't have to worry about Mexico, so they've grabbed up New Mexico. Argentina was on the Japanese-Russian alliance, but oh, and they're actually being aided by the Japanese. Not anymore though, they just got kicked out. Damn it, I always heard that Japan loves Brazil too. How can you do that? This is like their favorite vacation spot. So of course, the only way to topple the Russians is with a combined effort between the French and British forces. That may maybe makes sense, and they have to be at like an all-time high. And I don't even know if they're still going to be able to do it. They could still lose this. Of course, the Japanese got kicked off of Sardinia. They no longer control this stuff. And while WW3 is happening around the world, we have China versus Kazakhstan. I don't know why, but okay. China's always got to be doing their own thing. Oh, Afghanistan's here too. They did just eat best Korea though. How could China do that? Why would you do that to them? Don't worry, I got you, dog. Now Texas has taken over Colorado. All the while, there's not really going to be anyone stopping them. The French and British are probably not going to intervene. This would be kind of cool to see Texas take over all the western states, although California is invading Washington with the help of Oregon. Someone's going to form Cascadia. What the hell? Guatemala in Cuba? This is amazing. I've never seen Guatemala do this good. Arizona out of nowhere grabbing Vegas and actually taking Oregon, Idaho away. There's actually only a couple states left. How did Texas end up getting all this? Where did Texas come from? Oh, it's on. This is a serious conflict right here. Iceland versus Greenland. I'm really hoping they just like swap lands. Greenland gets all of Iceland. Iceland gets all of Greenland. Finally, the only way to have a perfect world. Ukraine getting awfully close to the French Empire, actually completely surrounded the French Empire. We also have Bosnia taking over all of Greece and Romania taking a little piece here too. China looking like the Qing Empire. They felt inspired with the British and French coming back. They're like, hey, you know, we can come back too. They're looking thicker than ever. And the partition of Japan has begun. We have the British South and the Brazilian North. How many walls are going to get built? Which side is going to be communist and democratic? Guatemala didn't get to keep all of it. Cuba's back, but at least they have the middle. At least they got something for it. The French Empire now have Baja California. We'll see how long that lasts. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they're going to want these states eventually. Finally, the French want to do something about these states. They're not having it over here. Maybe they're feeling a little cocky. They've finally done what they never could do before. They've taken over Russia, at least momentarily. Uh-oh, is that winter coming in? And the British pieced out. They don't even want it anymore, so they somewhat helped a little bit. They're at war with California though. Tensions seem to be high with China. I don't think it's terrible yet, but they might be worried about their border in South Asia. Texas in Alaska, finally the biggest state, they think they're the biggest state, right? Has the actual biggest state, Alaska. Who's gonna get all this land in the West Coast? Because California has a lot currently. Will be the French or British. Both will be valuable because I'm sure the conflict is eventually going to break out between these two. The French really need to wait to strike when the Chinese attack British Raj because I'm sure that's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. Sweden is the next nation. These colonial empires were just sick of hearing about, I guess. IKEA is gone. Oh, and so is all of China. I completely missed that. How did that happen so fast? That's crazy. And as of right now, these two are just perfectly content with taking over the entire world and working together, oddly, because that's exactly what they're doing. All of the states have fallen. Texas is gone. That went to the French too. I feel like this has been in a whole video about grudges. The British have taken over Argentina. You know they weren't happy with just getting the Falklands back. I love that Germany somehow got a piece of Russia. I don't know what's going on. The Germans barely even exist right here in this universe. It's like the French were like, you know what? You deserve a piece of this too. We both felt the same shame for all these years. Just grab yourself a little bit. They did take over these lands, just to confirm. Not all of Siberia yet. This is the second war against Russia for Siberia this time. And everybody got in on this. Even Venezuela got some of this stuff. How the hell? And with the fall of China, the British have grabbed the Korean Peninsula, as well as the Han dynasties back, because why not? If the British really want to stop the French, what they're going to need to do is bring back those Viet Cong. That's their kryptonite, but then again, that's kind of everybody's kryptonite. Indonesia's also been obliterated. Iran is here, taking some islands for their own vacation getaways. Kind of funny to see all the nations that have been spared by these colonial giants. Norway, Denmark, Poland, because definitely Poland should be spared. Romania, Iran, while like so many others are just being like eliminated from existence. The British are attacking Peru. They're tired of the llamas, I guess. Also, the French grabbed up Colombia. Didn't see when they did that. Portugal and Brazil are now attacking Cuba. We know that people have always wanted Cuba. A lot of people. I guess the French wanted it the most though. Like how Somalia got Greenland. Somalia is in Greenland. Did they use their pirates to take this over? Ooh, there we go, Philippines. Colonizing the Pacific. Look at all the islands they grabbed up. Puerto Rico in Mexico. Oh, that's gonna confuse some Americans. And so it begins. It only took 500 years, but now finally the British and French have pretty much only each other to fight. Now, along with what they got in the very beginning of the video, the French now have a ton of Russia and a ton of China. Now, this doesn't necessarily guarantee any success because maybe the French lost more of their military during their upcoming wars, their pre-wars to lead up to this. I'm most curious what happens in Asia because I don't think the Raj is really gonna be able to survive because they're surrounded now. Maybe the British will launch an invasion on French China and maybe like cause a distraction over here. There's actually a ton more British troops stationed than the French. So the the French probably don't have the reinforcements to guard any of this stuff. There was a little British naval invasion. Oh, but reverse card. Oh, okay, so they keep getting shut down. There's gonna be naval invasions back and forth, but I don't know if either one's gonna be successful for a while. Portugal is on the side of the British and causing some issues in Iberia. Oh, damn, this is getting crazy. That's a lot of troops in here. All of North America is now under British control. I don't know how the French lost this. You had so much of this territory. Oh, that is not good. The French done goofed. They done goofed real bad. Not only are they at war with just the British, but pretty much everybody else. Maybe everyone saw just how powerful they were getting and they knew the coalition was gonna have to form. Macron now realizes what it's like to be Napoleon. This is not good. You're losing everything, bro. Like, literally, it's all gone. Africa is the next battleground. There's not too many outsiders that are gonna interfere here, but it's still gonna be close. Oh, the British have way more things stationed this way. That's not good. Well, as long as you don't lose Europe, which that's exactly what it seems like you're doing, I think this coalition might be just a little too much. Brazil is out here this time. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. Okay, you lost everything in North America almost. Now, we've seen some amazing comebacks in this game. That's the thing about this game, is you never really know what's gonna happen. The most wild things always happen. But the French have pretty much been eliminated from all aspects of the world except for Africa and Europe. At least they got their home continent back. That's like the most important. You gotta defend from that. Maybe that's where they sent all their troops to. Oh, and they continue to land naval invasions in Canterbury? Kent. This is Kent, right? Brazil with the invasion of Italy, the southern invasion of Italy, which didn't last, but all right. Russia is now back, and the British are gonna... Wait, what's the British doing now? The British are also at war with everybody, so, they're not okay. The world is not okay with either colonial empire just having control over all the continents. Oh, that is going to save France right now. This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what they needed. The French are now back in North America with French Texas. That's something I never thought I'd say. Those two seem like exact opposites. Texas still exists, just with these weird borders. Texas is used to weird borders, though. And now New Mexico has been revived. Is the French just reviving all the old states or something? Puerto Rico is now invading. Puerto Rico now giving the British a little bit of trouble. The British, by the way, don't have much here, just a couple thousand men. The French are back, and they are just blowing through Eastern Europe right now. They're tired. They're sick of this. Now the British are having to somehow keep all of this stuff in Asia, which obviously the French were unable to do. British have all of Iran. That was a former ally that they had for a long time, too. The Brazilians are probably the third most powerful nation in this world, surprisingly, but they do have a little Latin American alliance. Look at this. All friends down here. Who's going to be banished to Brazil first, the French or the British? They'll never escape that shadow realm. French now have to do another invasion of Russia. This time it's a British-controlled Russia, though. Maybe a little bit more difficult now. Tea and vodka? That might be unstoppable. Though the British might be fighting everyone just like the French, they seem to be doing a lot better. The French actually still aren't looking that good. They momentarily started looking better, but not anymore. Venezuela with all of Italy. Also, Portugal is back, giving a little bit of problems in Iberia. Angola in Greece. That's... okay. That and Poland in Argentina and Chile. Don't know which one's weirder. Now, the French are still holding down the Caribbean. They have Cuba and this island, but that's about it. They lost French Texas. Oh, they also have some islands up here in Canada. Don't tell me you're gonna be eliminated by Venezuela, France. That's shameful. Now, technically, all the French need to do is hold on to Europe. Keep all of their troops in Europe, slowly gather back territory, which, I mean, they keep wanting to go east and then they get invaded from the west. I think they're also losing a lot of men just by trying their hardest to invade the British Isles. Stop doing that. And they also really want Russia back. I feel like that's the only thing they care about, just making sure they don't lose Russia again. Russia and Putin are technically back, but they're only fighting the French, surprisingly. Oh, and the British actually pieced out with a lot of the other nations. I don't know how they got so lucky. The French were not quite as lucky, although they've pieced out with a lot of Europe at least. The Philippines just casually controlling most of Sicily, not all of it, trying not to upset big bad French daddy up here. Philippines were not colonized by the French, so maybe they don't have any grudges. Japan has been united under the British Empire. They've kicked out the Brazilians, at least. Japan is still here, though. Other Japan. Independent Japan. The British are now sick of seeing other nations do their dirty work. They are now in Iberia, but they're probably gonna get kicked out as well. There's like only 8 dudes right here. The British are looking much better economically. At least they're like in the green. The French are not in the green. The French are struggling. I mean, they got a lot of money. Oh, it's getting better, actually. The French momentarily have Russia and China back, and now they're going after old Russia, trying to finally take care of them. Wait a second, what is going on? Are we finally gonna see it? Have the French permanently returned? I don't know where the Redcoats are. I wonder, are they even still called the Redcoats? And, well, the year is 2142. I would say, just for old time's sake, let's do it. Texas is back. Again, you cannot get rid of Texas. They have all of Mexico. It's their wet dream. French are also back. Wait a second. is this gonna be the peace deal? The French might be able to escape this war without losing much at all. That is actually exactly what they did. Somehow, it's okay. They got most of their stuff back, so they were able to scare the British enough to leave. Is that gonna be enough, though, to win this game? Let's see. Top 10, and of course, we're gonna have some weird ones because big font size is not the only thing that matters. Denmark, this small Caribbean island, which is just an economic powerhouse. Look at that. Actually, there's some strange ones. 8, 7, 6. Okay, top 5, Brazil, this Ethiopian empire. Number 3, Venezuela. And yep, they pieced out for the win. The British are still number 1. And actually, they are pretty solidly number 1, over 5,000 points ahead. So even though the French were able to get everything back, it was just to cement that British win. Oh man, this is not going to make our baguette daddies happy. That economic score, they're just killing it. They're making so much money. Population-wise, the French still have a small lead. That's nice, I guess. Let me know what other empires you'd like to see me bring back in this same way. Obviously, the Portuguese, the French, the Netherlands are just a couple I have in mind. They all at one point controlled a lot of land, obviously. But there could be some other ones in there that I'm not thinking about, so let me know. Thanks to the February patrons. France doesn't exist. Rumel 57. I'm about a nut. The Glen Council. Thick Boy 3000. Stormtrooper 501. Ralsei Tree. Aryan After Hours. Pobsnitz. Polovsky. Patrick C. Manny 74. Mac. Luxembourg Lover. Fusion Wolf. Full Send Nick. Epi Nick. Elijah Senpai. Dalton D. Annie Keith. And Ballin' Like Star.